Do you expect a United States military strike against you?
هل تتوقعون ضربة عسكرية من الولايات المتحدة ضدكم؟
نحن نضع هذا في اعتبارنا ونتهيأ على أساس مثل هذا الاحتمال.
We take this into our account and we are prepared on the basis of that eventuality.
ورغم أننا نتهيأ لمواجهة مثل هذا الاحتمال فإننا لا نسعى إليه.
In spite of the fact that we are preparing ourselves for the possibility of such an eventuality, we do not work or do not do anything towards that eventuality to happen.
Mr. President, I think many Americans
سيادة الرئيس، أنا أعتقد أن العديد من الأمريكان
are concerned that there may be a war.
قلقين جدا من احتمال وقوع الحرب.
And the question they want to know is, who is this man Saddam Hussein?
والسؤال الذي يودون أن يعرفوه هو من هو صدام حسين؟
How would you describe yourself?
أود أن تصفوا أنفسكم.
قبل أن لا أعتقد أنه يهمهم كثيرا أن يعرفوا من هو صدام حسين قبل أن يعرفوا السبيل لكي لا تحصل الحرب.
I don't think they would be as much interested in knowing who Saddam Hussein is as they would be interested in knowing the best way to avoid war.
أنا أعتقد قلق الأمريكان صحيح. ومشروع.
I think the concerns of the American people are legitimate and correct.
والعراقيين مثل الأمريكان أيضا لا يريدون الحرب.
And the Iraqis, the people of Iraq, like the Americans, do not want the war to erupt.
ولذلك أنا عنهم عن العراقيين أقول بأنني لا أريد الحرب.
Which is why I say in their behalf, on behalf of the Iraqi people, that we do not want war.
والمطلوب من السيد بوش أن يقول للأمريكيين بأنه لا يريد الحرب. وعند ذلك سوف لن تقع الحرب.
What is required of Mr. Bush is called upon now to say to the Americans that he doesn't want war to erupt, and in which case we will not have a war.
أما من هو صدام حسين فصدام حسين هو هذا اللي أمامك.
But as to your question regarding who Saddam Hussein is, then Saddam Hussein is the man sitting in front of you.
أنت وكل السياسيين في أمريكا والإعلاميين يعرفون من هو صدام حسين، لأن صدام حسين غير مضموم في قاصة، وإنما يعرف الإنسان من تاريخه.
This is you and all pressmen in general and politicians in the United States are aware of who Saddam Hussein is. You know about Saddam Hussein because Saddam Hussein has not been locked up in a room in a safe and hidden from public eye.
وتستطيعون ذلك أن تقولون لهم الحقيقة كما هي عن صدام حسين.
In which case you would be able yourself to tell the Americans who exactly Saddam Hussein is, because you know who Saddam Hussein is.
President Bush has said
قال الرئيس بوش
that you are to be equated with Hitler.
بأنكم تريدون أن تكونوا كهتلر.
نعم، ينبغي مقارنتكم
بهتلر.
That you're a bully and a very dangerous man.
وأنكم رجل خطير جدا ومتنبه.
بأي الزوايا اختار السيد بوش أن يقارنني مع هتلر؟
From which angle has Mr. Bush chosen to compare me with Hitler?
You invaded a weak neighbor.
لأنكم غزوتم بلد جار.
Who was no threat to you.
وبلد ضعيف.
To be a true American and to be true to the American public, you must know the truth, and you must know exactly how wicked the Sabah family were to us.
Mr. President, your Deputy Prime Minister and Foreign Minister said a few days ago that the door was not closed to any idea Does that include the idea of possibly Iraq withdrawing from Kuwait under any circumstances?
لا أي حال وزير الخارجية يتحدث في إطار الحال العام.
At any rate, the Minister of Foreign Affairs was talking within a general framework.
والكويت هي جزء من حالة أعم.
And Kuwait is part of a more general situation.
أنتم تعرفون أن الجيوش الأمريكية الآن تحتل الأراضي المقدسة للعرب والمسلمين في السعودية.
You know that the U.S. armies are now occupying the lands and the soil that are the lands that are sacred to the Arabs and to the Muslims.
وهنالك حصار يفرض على العراق.
And that a blockade is being imposed upon Iraq.
وهنالك حشود.
And that there are
ضخمة لأمريكا ومن ولاها.
And that huge concentrations are being deployed the area by the United States and by those who are following suit, aligning themselves with it. And amongst these matters comes the issue of Iraq and the aggression that may possibly be perpetrated against Iraq.
ثم تأتي الكويت كواحدة من هذه العناوين الكثيرة.
And Kuwait comes as one of these many titles.
But is it negotiable? Is it negotiable or non-negotiable?
هل إن الانسحاب مسألة؟
If you are talking about withdrawal, so what's there to negotiate about? Any problem that may arise in front of man, and it's only the mark of humanity that one shouldn't say that any problem that there is, then there is no way in which this problem can be resolved. One shouldn't dismiss.
لأنه عندما يقال إنه ليس هنالك مجال لفكرة جديدة معناه أن الحياة كما قلنا قبل قليل تتوقف.
Because when you dismiss any possibility for new ideas, when you say that there is no room for any new idea, then life will stop, as we were saying just before we came here.
والعقل الجامد هو فقط الذي يقول إنه ليس هنالك فكرة جديدة.
And only a dead mind or frozen mind would say that there is no room for new ideas.
So it is negotiable.
إذن يعني هذا أن هناك مكان أو مجال للتفاوض.
التفاوض مع من؟
Negotiating with whom?
With the United States.
مع الولايات المتحدة.
هل الكويت الولاية ال 52 في الولايات المتحدة الأمريكية؟
Is Kuwait the 52nd state of the United States?
No, you have said it is the 19th province of Iraq.
What we're talking about actually is dialogue and not negotiations, because negotiations are normally conducted between the parties concerned, directly concerned with the problem. And we have been told by the United States that the United States has come to the area at the invitation of Saudi Arabia. The United States has not told us as yet that it is the natural heir of Kuwait to negotiate on. So with regard to the withdrawal of the United States from our sacred areas, if we were to be mandated by our brethren in the Islamic and Arab world to negotiate on their behalf the withdrawal of the United States, we will be in a position to negotiate. And because our brethren, Muslim brethren, Arab brethren, have not as yet mandated us to conduct such negotiations, then all we can say now is that we can conduct a dialogue with the United States over this point.
But that would include the possibility of you withdrawing from Iraq, from Kuwait.
وهل هذا يعني أن هناك إمكانية لأن تنسحبوا من الكويت؟
الكويت جزء من العراق.
Kuwait is part of Iraq.
للأبد؟
نحن قلنا الجهات التشريعية في العراق أصدرت قرار واضح تقول أن الكويت إحدى محافظات العراق.
We have said this, and the legislative bodies in Iraq have issued a clear decree, a clear decision saying that Kuwait is an Iraqi province.
إذن الكويت ليس كالسعودية.
So Kuwait is a different thing from Saudi Arabia. It's not like Saudi Arabia. We can understand those who say that they are worried about Saudi Arabia if there was really any danger or threat to Saudi Arabia, because Saudi Arabia is a sovereign state, as sovereign, as independent as Iraq is. But the situation in Saudi Arabia is a different matter from that in Kuwait.
May I change the subject for just a moment, Mr. President?
أريد أن أتحدث عن موضوع ما.
There was a report today in the United States
هناك تقارير الآن في الولايات المتحدة
that through several back channels, through several sources,
أن هناك مصادر عديدة
that you had offered to negotiate
أن جهود الأمم المتحدة للتفاوض
an Iraqi withdrawal from Kuwait,
من أجل انسحاب العراق من الكويت,
provided that you would get some of the islands that used to belong to Kuwait,
شريطة أن يحصل العراق على عدد من الجزر,
and that you would get one of Kuwait's major oil fields,
وأن يحصل على أحد أكبر أو بئر نفط كبير في الكويت,
and that the debts to Kuwait for the war would be forgiven. Is that report true?
هل أن هذه التقارير صحيحة؟
وأن تنسى ديون العراق للكويت.
حتى الآن نحن لم نلتقي بالأمين العام للأمم المتحدة.
سيد الرئيس لا تسمح، هو قال هناك مصادر قالت أنكم أنتم قلتم أو مستعدين لهذا الشيء، لا دخل للأمم المتحدة.
بالشكل؟
The sources didn't talk about the United States.
No.
The United Nations. No. Nothing about the United Nations.
No.
The sources say that Iraq, or His Excellency, is prepared to address these matters.
That's correct.
Yes.
That was the report.
أنتم الذين مصدر.
نحن لم نقل هذا لأحد.
We haven't said this to anybody.
ومع ذلك أي فكرة عندما تطرح علينا سنقول رأينا فيه.
Any idea that may be submitted to us will certainly get our response. We will express our opinion about it.
لكن الفكرة الآن من ممكن أن تطرح علينا؟
But who is there to submit or propose an idea to us?
Well, Mr. Perez de Cuellar will be submitting ideas.
When he meets with our foreign minister and he submits any of these ideas, we will of course talk to him, because we respect Mr. de Cuellar as he represents the United Nations.
Mr. President,
سيادة الرئيس,
respectfully, a hostage is a hostage is a hostage.
الرهينة هو رهينة.
I have to believe that you, an intelligent person, knows that these people are hostages.
أنتم تعرفون أن هؤلاء يعتبرون رهان.
إذا كان المفهوم بهذه الكيفية، لماذا احتجز الأمريكان عدد من اليابانيين يعني بعشرات الألوف في الحرب العالمية الثانية؟
If that is how you conceive the situation to be, then how come that the United States kept or retained thousands of Japanese during the Second World War?
وبعضهم أو أغلبيتهم كانوا يتمتعون بالجنسية الأمريكية.
Some of whom, in fact, or the majority of whom, were, holders of the U.S. nationality. The Americans then perpetrated an act of double detention, or sort of multiple detention, because those citizens were first detained because they were Japanese. They were detained as non-Japanese, and then also, in spite of the fact that they were detained as nationals, American nationals.
Well, I'm not here to defend that.
أنا لا أريد أن أدافع عن هذا الموضوع.
But it was a long time ago in a different situation.
ولكن قبل فترة طويلة كان هذا الموضوع مختلف.
Would you consider letting all of these hostages go?
Why is it different? Wasn't it done because you wanted the war not to go on for long?
No, it was done for internal security. But
أجري هذا العمل من أجل الأمن الداخلي.
نحن نجري هذا العمل من أجل السلام.
We are doing this for peace, which is a much more sublime objective than internal security.
well, I think this will not gain us much. Let me ask.
أود أن أكون واضحا في هذا الموضوع.
One of your Iraqi officials
أحد المسؤولين العراقيين
said to me in private. Said to me in private.
قال لي بشكل خاص.
He said, what we have now is a kind of balance of terror.
قال إن ما لدينا الآن هو بالونات
موازنة بالإرهاب.
Do you agree with that what we have now is a kind of balance of terror between the United States and Iraq? You have the hostages and we have a huge military force.
هل تتفقون مع هذا الرأي بأنه تريدون أن تقيمون موازنة في الرعب مع الولايات المتحدة من خلال الرهان؟
لا نؤمن بهذا. يعني الذي قال لك هذا الكلام لا يعرف سياستنا.
We don't believe in this sort of thing. Whoever said to you,
إذا كان هنالك من قال لك,
if you've been told this, and whoever has told you this thing doesn't know our policy. We don't believe in this sort of thing. I don't know whether you've seen my meeting with the foreign guests. I said during this meeting that if in a situation of a raid, if a raid, an attack does occur, and there is a shelter nearby, then my instructions are that the foreigners should enter the shelter first, even before the Iraqis. If we were interested in maintaining this sort of balanced terror, as you call it, then we wouldn't have preferred the foreigners to our own citizens. You see, these are guests. We are treating them as guests, and according to Arab tradition, guests come before the household. Let me ask you, if I may, take part of the questioning. If we try and look at the situation or compare the situation involving Grenada and Panama and that of Kuwait, despite the fact that, of course, what we are saying is that Kuwait is part of Iraq, and what the United States saying is that Grenada and Panama are not part of the United States, but in spite of this very important fact, you did invade those two countries, and not only that, you brought along with you the president of one of the countries to be tried in the United States. Wouldn't the people of the United States ask about this duality in your behavior, in your judgment, in duality of your criteria in a situation such as this one? On the one hand, you are sending your armies, you are mobilizing your forces to send to this region, and yet you allow your selves to go into these two countries.
Well, first of all, it's my job to ask the questions, not to answer the questions.
في البداية أن جوابي على السؤال راح سيكون سؤالا.
لا، هو مهمتي أنا هو أن أسأل الأسئلة وليس أن أجاوب على أسئلة.
These questions are better directed to President Bush and to President Reagan.
هذا السؤال يجب أن يوجه إلى الرئيس بوش.
إذن أنا أوجهه إلى الرئيس بوش.
So let me still pose the question through you to President Bush. And if his answer were, well, yes, we went into Grenada and into Panama, but we did not retain those two places as part of the United States. If this were to be his answer, then my reply to that answer would be, if they were part of the United States, then you would have kept them.
Mr. President, let us move to another subject, if I may.
سيادة الرئيس، أود أن أنتقل إلى موضوع آخر.
And let me speak frankly.
وأود أن أتكلم بصراحة.
When you appeared on
إذن إلى الآن لم تتكلم بصراحة.
You haven't been frank enough as yet.
Perhaps not. Perhaps not. But when I saw you on television, with the first time, with what you call guests, what I call hostages, with the British boy and his family.
عندما ظهرتم لأول مرة مع الأجانب وكان هناك شاب أو صبي إنجليزي.
مع من تسمونهم أنتم الضيوف ومن أسميهم أنا الرهائن، وكان هناك هذا الطفل الإنجليزي.
I was very uncomfortable with that, and I think many Americans and others were uncomfortable and outraged by it.
كنت
Why did you do
غير
that?
مرتاح والعديد من الامريكان كانوا غير مرتاحين.
لماذا؟ لماذا؟
Why were you
Why
uncomfortable?
you were not comfortable?
You were asking why he did it?
Yes. Why?
وكان السؤال لما فعلتم ذلك؟ Why he did what?
نحن قلنا بأن الأجانب الذين تسمونهم رهائن هم ضيوفنا.
We have said that the foreigners here, whom you call hostages, are our guests.
أنا من عادتي ومن أسلوبي بأنه أرى الميدان قبل أن أقرر في التفاصيل.
It is a habit of mine, indeed it is my style, to go to the area, to see the field before I decide anything. And whenever my decision is to do with man or with human beings, then I take great care to see for myself the situation before I decide anything.
إذن أجد من واجبي أنه أشوف هؤلاء الأجانب.
So I see it as my duty to see these foreigners.
على الطبيعة.
Spontaneously.
لأتعرف على أحوالهم كما هي وليس كما تنقل لي عبر سلسلة المراجع.
To see their situation exactly exactly as how it is, and not as it is conveyed to me through reports.
ولذلك رأيتهم مرتين.
Which is why I have been to visit them twice.
واستوضحت منهم.
And I asked them
عن شؤونهم الخاصة
about their
والعام من الأمور.
private affairs, private matters, and also private needs, and also about their general situation.
واستخرجت من هذه الرؤية دروس إنسانية عميقة.
And through this vision, through this encounter, I have come up with some very deep human lessons.
ومن بين هذه الدروس مثلا
Amongst the things that I have learned, for instance, I have discovered that in spite of the assurances that I had received about the foreigners being, assured of their safety and their comfort, I discovered when I saw the foreigners that the women were not really comfortable. Which is why I immediately after the meeting, I invited a number of my comrades in the government and consulted with the Speaker of our National Assembly, and then decided that we should let the women and children leave if they so wanted, stay if they so decide, whenever they so decide, and at will.
وهكذا ترى أنه الغرض في اللقاء هو غرض إنساني.
And hence you see that the main objective behind my visit to them is a human one.
Would you consider letting all of the hostages go, Mr. President?
We would have wished for the whole thing not to have come about, basically. So it is only natural that we feel the burden that this sort of state of affairs does leave on us, in the same way as the guests who are, let me call them guests by force or against their will, feel the burden that the situation is imposing upon them.
مو باي فورس تماما وإنما
Against their will, say, بعكس رغباتهم.
بعكس رغبات.
Against their will. His Excellency underlined my description of their being guests against their will rather than guests by will.
ولذلك
This is a very difficult.
أن نفكر دائما بالطريقة التي تجعلهم في كامل حرية.
Which makes it only natural that we should take great care to leave them to give them their full liberty.
I want to move on to another subject, but I want to make sure I understand. So the answer is no, you would not consider letting the other hostages, what you call guests, go at the present time.
We had looked into this and wanted to release them, then the decision would have been made.
Mr. President, you have proposed a debate
اقترحتم سيادة الرئيس حوارا
with President Bush, with Prime Minister Thatcher.
مع الرئيس بوش ومع رئيسة الوزراء.
Are you serious about this?
هل أنتم جادون في هذا الموضوع؟
تمام الجد.
I am very serious.
But why? What would that accomplish?
لماذا وماذا يحقق هذا؟
ألا يحب الغربيون الحوار ليتعرفوا على الحقائق؟
Aren't the people of the West interested in debate to see facts for them as they are? We keep being told repeatedly that the West loves debate and wants to the people of the West are interested in debate and are interested in new ideas and in life. Then we see them running away from debates and running away from new ideas, not interested in changing things.
The Bush administration today called this idea, and I quote,
إدارة بوش في هذا اليوم دعت إلى هذه الفكرة.
sick. Ill.
وصفت هذه الفكرة بأنها
قالت أن هذه الفكرة مريضة.
لماذا هي مريضة؟
Why is it sick? You as a US citizen should ask, why a debate of this nature, an open debate, a direct debate, which may put the world before the facts as they truly are, or which may give the world a chance to see the facts, to conclude the facts through such an open debate, how could such a debate be called sick?
I believe he considered it to be ridiculous.
Why is it, how could it be ridiculous?
هذا هو الازدواج في مقاييس السيد بوش.
This is the sort of duality in the criteria or the standards that Mr. Bush seems to be following. Well, how could it be ridiculous? Mr. Bush seems to be thinking that it is legitimate to maintain the occupation of the Arab lands by Israel, but it's not legitimate for a mother country to go and regain its lost part, and in a situation which calls on Bush to bring armies and deploy forces to fight this,
to occupy the sanctities of
and the forces in lands that do contain sacred places for the Arabs.
Mr. President,
سيادة الرئيس.
again, you're an intelligent person, and you recognize the difference between
أنكم رجل ذكي وتعرفون الاختلافات بين
Israel that has been surrounded by neighbors who want to destroy her.
محاطة بجيران neighbors
who want to destroy her.
يريدون تدميرها.
And a weak neighbor of yours who didn't want to destroy you and had no capacity
وأن
for doing
جيرانكم.
To begin with, I would say that I don't think that any of the neighboring states want to destroy or have said that they want to destroy Israel or destroy the Jewish character or anything to do with the Jewish state, with Jewry. But it's only natural for the Arabs to say that an occupier should leave the land it has occupied, and that we should underline the fact that if the political avenue to achieve this objective fails, then the alternative would be the use of force.
أما بالنسبة لي حكام الكويت نعم كانوا يريدون تدمير العراق.
As for the rulers of Kuwait, yes, they wanted to destroy Iraq. The Kuwaiti rulers were actually trying to destroy Iraq, and I made this clear to them. I addressed them during the Arab Summit conference, the extraordinary Arab Summit conference that was held here in Baghdad, and I can provide you with a text of my statement in which I said to them, what is being done to Iraq is destructive. In fact, you are waging war against Iraq. If you want to, if you detract from this, I advise them to detract from this course. But what happened later was in fact an intensification into that direction, into the attempts to break Iraq.
Mr. President, your Deputy Prime Minister and Foreign Minister
وزير خارجيتكم ونائب رئيس الوزراء
told me in an interview
أخبرني في مقابلة
that Iraq would not use poison gas or biological weapons unless attacked with nuclear weapons itself.
بأن العراق لن يستخدم الغازات السامة والأسلحة الكيميائية ما لم يهاجم بالأسلحة النووية والبيولوجية. ما لم يهاجم بالأسلحة النووية.
Are you prepared to give that commitment tonight? Is that your word?
If what we're talking about is the situation between us and Israel, then I have issued statements, repeat statements, sufficient statements on it in the past.
No, we're talking about vis-a-vis the United States, the situation with the United States.
لا أننا نتحدث الآن عن الوضع بينكم وبين الولايات المتحدة.
في كل الأحوال لا تظن أنه ننطي العراق لكائن من يكون.
In all cases,
العراق وجد ليبقى عزيز.
Never imagine that we are going to relinquish Iraq to anybody whosoever. Iraq shall continue to live in dignity.
So you might use poison gas if necessary to save Iraq, in your opinion.
إذن قد تستخدمون الغازات السامة دفاعا عن العراق من أجل إنقاذ العراق.
أنا لم أقل هذا.
I haven't said this. What I'm saying is that Iraq is an independent state, independent sovereign state, and whoever attacks Iraq to change the government or to destroy Iraq, then they should expect that Iraq is not going to be an easy bite to swallow.
Mr. President, do you think this is a Vietnam in the sand for the United States?
We wish neither for the United States to have to face the miseries and tragedies that the Americans faced in Vietnam, nor for the Iraqis to face the miseries and tragedies that the people of Vietnam faced in their war against the United States. But I think is that if war were to erupt between the United States and Iraq, representing the Arab world, on behalf of the Arab world, then this war will lead to a situation in which the United States will no longer be country number one in the world.
وأن الأذى الذي سيصيب المهاجمين الغزاة أكثر مما أصابهم في فيتنام.
And that the damage or the harm caused to the invaders, the harm caused to the invaders who come here will be greater than whatever they suffered in Vietnam.
وأن العراق سينتصر.
Iraq will come out victorious in this encounter.
What are the chances, Mr. President, that you underestimate the power of the United States military? What are the chances that a quick, powerful strike could knock you out immediately?
No single strike, however strong, however destructive, however potential, can destroy a whole people.
يعني أمريكا معتمدة على سلاح الطيران.
The United States relies on the Air Force.
سلاح الطيران لم يحسم معركة في كل تاريخ الحروب.
And the Air Force has never been the decisive factor in a battle in the history of wars. So yes, the United States Air Force may be able to destroy cities, plants, installations, and people, but it will never be able to be decisive in concluding a battle.
هذا على المستوى الحديث عن التقنية والمقاتلين والحرب في إطار فني.
This is on the level of technical talk about, war in the technical sense.
ولكن على المستوى الآخر الله معنا والشيطان مع الإدارة الأمريكية.
God is on our side and Satan is on the side of the American administration.
هل بإمكان الشيطان أن يغلب الله؟
So can Satan or the devil win over God?
Every soldier I ever met believed God was on his side.
But there is a difference between the soldier who comes all this distance to occupy this area of sanctities for all Muslims and then to try and invade and destroy Iraq, and the soldier, there's a difference between this soldier and the soldier who is sitting in his home, sitting on his land, and fighting in the defense of his own home.
If you are attacked by the United States,
you mean if we are attacked by the United States from Saudi territory?
Or any place else, does your promise not to invade Saudi Arabia hold?
هل أن قراركم بعدم غزو السعودية يبقى قائم؟
في حالة ما إذا هجمنا من أراضي السعودية فإن الأمر يختلف.
If we were to be attacked from Saudi territory, then the situation will be a different one.
وإذا ما هجمنا من أراضي أخرى فأيضا الأمر يختلف.
But if we were to be attacked from other parts, then the situation will be another.
Several analysts have said
قال العديد من المحللين
that what's happening now
إن ما يحدث الآن
is going to drastically change
سوف يؤدي إلى تغييرات كبيرة
the balance of forces in the Middle East and perhaps even the map.
في موازين القوى في المنطقة في الشرق الأوسط ربما في العالم.
Do you agree with that?
هل تتفقون مع هذا؟
إذا ما اندفعت الأمور إلى الحرب نعم.
Yes, I agree. If the situation were to be pushed to war.
أما إذا ما حلت الأزمة حلا سياسيا.
But if the crisis were to be resolved politically,
فسيكون للأمور مجرى آخر.
Then things will take a different turn.
Mr. President, is there anything that you want to say to President Bush this evening?
سيادة الرئيس هل تودون أن تقولوا لرئيس بوش أي شيء؟
This is an opportunity to speak directly to him.
I have nothing to say to him except that I should put to him that before he involves his country, the United States, in a situation which is going to be difficult for the United States, then he has to think many times before doing that, and he has to consult people who can give him real and genuine advice about the area and about the question of Kuwait and about matters that are related to this situation, this crisis.
And you have no new proposals to make to him?
If we were to have dialogue, if dialogue were to be opened between us, and now I'm talking about dialogue and not the debate, then it is only, I'm certain that there will be a great deal to say to him from us on our part, and I'm also sure that he will have a great deal to say.
ولكن إذا ما وقعت الحرب فسوف لن نكون نحن أصحاب الإثم فيها.
But if war were to come about, then the sin of having caused it shall not be